Welcome back, everyone. It's been a minute, and quite frankly, I thought boxing had got a bit stale over the last couple of weeks. There wasn't anything really that inspired me to make a video, or I thought really worthy of the effort of really talking about. But we must talk about Derek Chisora versus Joyce now. As many of us did in the build-up to this, I thought this would be a comprehensive win for Joyce. I was very vocal in the fact that I didn't want to see Derek fight again, personally, just for me, to kind of ensure the welfare of Derek's health for the future. But I was always as well, and I said this before Joyce's first losses, that Joyce was an accident waiting to happen because his lack of defence. He doesn't have a defence, does he, other than his face? And when your defence is just built on your face and your ability to take shots, you will at some point find yourself on the floor. He's done that now on numerous occasions. Derek, we all thought, had very little left, and fighting Joyce doesn't really say that he's got anything left either at the top level. Joyce, again, put in a performance of the level that I said he was a long, long time ago. And that's what we saw. I always thought this fight would be dangerous for Derek Chisora because I thought Joyce is he's very long, he's very straight, and he throws straight, long, thudding punches. But he neglected the use of the jab for the majority of the fight. And when he did throw the jab, he almost threw the jab as an arm shot. So he didn't extend it through the body. So there was no real length on the jab. So it wasn't really an effective shot for him. It didn't keep Derek at bay or make Derek think. For a lot of the time, Joyce elected to hook with a hooker, really. And Derek Chisora was the hooker. It's kind of really the only shot he really throws. He just puts everything behind that wild hook. And Joyce elected to do that. One of the alarming things is, and I've always said, Joyce, as you all know, Joyce is extremely, extremely slow. Slow of feet, slow of hand. But it was even more alarming for someone like Derek, who's not quick, that Derek was quicker and faster to the punch and looked like he had faster hands than Joyce did. In terms of technical ability in that fight, it wasn't really a great display, was it? Wonderfully entertaining fight, as you kind of watching a fight outside a pub is usually wonderfully entertaining. And this was entertaining in the same way. There was a bit on TalkSport, I didn't even watch it, but I saw the headline. The headline was, will Joyce ever be as good as he was, or will Joyce ever get back what he had previously? Now, again, I go back to the point that I made ages and ages and ages ago, that I thought Joyce is at a level, and Joyce's shortcomings far outweighed his positives, or his positive attributes. So when they say, will the old Joyce ever come back? Will Joyce ever reclaim what he once was? I think Joyce is pretty much what he has always been. I don't think Joyce has really got any different. I think when he stepped up, that just became more evident. And we can talk about the wins over Daniel Dubois, but that was very much a Daniel Dubois that was still growing into a man mentally. And I think about Daniel Dubois, I think that the losses for Daniel Dubois have almost kind of made him. Do you know what I mean? The losses sparked something in him, along with Don Charles, and the losses he certainly learned from, and he's overcome the mental thing, or maybe the lack of heart, or the lack of desire, or maybe the lack of belief that Daniel Dubois had. He has seemed to overcome that now, and I think the losses played a massive part in that. But as for Joyce, I don't think Joyce is really any different, other than his punch resistance has dropped, possibly through the amount of shots he's taken, possibly age, because punch resistance goes with age. And as for his lack of speed, lack of mobility, they've got a little bit worse. But if they're talking about Joe from a technical level, or kind of a reclaiming a former glory, Joe is essentially the same fighter that he was before. Essentially, there is no. It's like when they talk about Anthony Joshua, when they're always, before his comeback wins against Wallin and Francis Ngannou, I know he had the Hellenius fight before that, but that didn't really count. He didn't look that much better against Hellenius. But they talk about the new and the old. And with Joshua, there was no new and old. It was just an evolution of Joshua growing as a fighter. And that's what Daniel Dubois done for his losses. Now, Joe Joyce hasn't. And that's why he's almost continued to lose. Joe Joyce is essentially the same fighter than he was before. I mean, for me, the way to fight Derek Chisora was a really good, quick, long, stiff jab, followed by a right hand and some good foot movement. You know, not a massive amount to work out. And I know that's easier saying, sitting on the outside saying that. But if we were looking at it from a technical point of view, we weren't going to stand there and fight Derek's fight, would you? That wouldn't be the advice going into the fight that you give your fighter. And as a fighter, unless you're just on some egotistic power trip and you want to outman Derek, which I don't think Joe Joyce is that kind of guy, I just didn't see that tactic that they employed for the majority of the time. Let's stand with Derek and trade and hook with him. That just doesn't seem to be, that's not going to favour you, is it? So, yeah, Derek wins. I was watching Joe Stunner the other day, and Joe Stunner mentioned that a third fight with Dillian Whyte is a great idea. And I think it is, because if you look at Dillian Whyte's last fight against Christian Hammer, Dillian didn't look great at all. And Dillian's had masses of inactivity. So that would draw a crowd. And if Derek, I didn't listen to any after the fight, his interviews. I don't know if Derek wants to fight again. Again, this would be a fantastic way for Derek to bow out. You know, and I still think he should. I still think Derek should bow out. But as I always say, no man has the right to tell any other man what he should or shouldn't do. This is your own decision. This is a personal decision for you. But if he does fight again, I totally agree with Joe. Chisora Whyte, three, yeah, is kind of perfect, isn't it? And then you could even say from that, or unless they throw it on a Saudi undercard, you would think the winner of that would then certainly get on a Saudi card. And if we're talking about Derek, who loves a greenback, with that as the kind of prospect, he's in, isn't he? He's in, I would have thought. And the same with Dillian. I'm no doubt that Dillian's sort of return to the ring was pretty much sort of, you know, inspired by the fact that I might get on a Saudi card and get some of them big bucks. So, yeah, super entertaining. Not one for the purists, I would say, from a technical point of view. Don't think anyone will argue with that. Entertaining, yes, wonderfully. Ringside was Alexander Usyk, who looked like he was absolutely loving it. And the way at the final bell where Usyk stood up and cheered in full appreciation of what he'd just seen in terms of guts was wonderful to see. Talking of Alexander Usyk, I'm sure many of you would, but he'd done an interview with Boxing King Media last week, and he was asked to judge the British opponents he fought at heavyweight on sort of punch power, footwork, speed, how difficult they were to box, defensive skills, and he rated them all. I don't know if many of you might have seen this, but if you haven't, this is what he had to say. Let me know what you think about what he says.
From the British fighters you fought, who had the most power?
Listen, power, it's different. Power hard, power this, power this.
Which power you mean?
Yeah.
Punch power.
Punch power.
Yes.
Derek Chisora.
Speed, who was the quickest?
Tony Bellew.
Who had the best defense?
Tyson Fury.
Best footwork?
Tony Bellew.
Best boxing IQ?
Tyson Fury.
Which one was the easiest fight for you?
Joyce.
Which was the hardest fight?
Tyson Fury.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Firstly, there's nothing more cringy when an interviewer interviewing someone of a different nationality and a different accent and a different language, but when that person who's got the different language from the different nationality speaks in English, is when the interviewer takes on what they think is the accent of the guy they're interviewing. That it just always makes me fucking laugh. It's not the first time I've Boxing King Media done stuff like that, but it's fucking horrendous to listen to, isn't it? But there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. Very interesting. And it kind of echoes what I said about Joe Joyce. Asked who was his easiest fight, Joe Joyce. And it also says about the people who thought, you know, Alexander Usyk so basically had an easy time with Tyson Fury, other than the 3 rounds where Fury had his successes. You know, Alexander Usyk says he was the best defensively, hardest fight he's ever had. So that brings some reality down to the fact, because I don't think a lot of people who've put on a pair of gloves really understand when they see, you know, leave those 3 rounds aside, but take the rest of the fight when he's essentially beating Fury up and winning those rounds. People look at that as an easy win or an easy night for the other guy. No, that was his hardest fight. So yeah, just really interesting comments by Alexander Usyk. Tony Bellew, giving a lot of credit there. And he was, Tony Bellew done great in that fight for 4 or 5 rounds. But this is the thing that Usyk does, doesn't he? To box that well against Usyk, you really have to do it at such a mental and physical sort of output way higher than what you can sustain. That's part of the great tactic by Alexander Usyk. But great comments. Let me know what you think. Good to see you all. Though I'm not seeing you all, but I apologise for not making a video for a while. Just again, like I said, just, you know what it is? We all love this game. All of us that watch boxing, we all love this game. And I've been involved in this game since early teens. But I love my wife. But sometimes I love it when she goes away with her mates for a while. And I get a couple of days to myself. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's the same kind of thing. I love this game. I'll always love this game. This game will be my one true love, my first true love. But sometimes I get bored of it, need a break of it. And that's what happens. So I'll see you all soon. Have a great day. Have a great week. And I'll see you soon.